Hello and welcome to the first episode of Yoga for the Aquarian Age. The title of this episode is Meditation. I teach 4 distinct types of meditation in this yoga, and these 4 meditations provide the foundation for all the yogic development that this yoga delivers. Before I describe these 4 meditations, let me first of all briefly explain what they are not, and what the student ought not to expect from these meditations or from this yoga. Many people follow yoga for religious reasons, and they meditate with the expectation of eventually having a religious experience. Devotees of Shiva, Brahma, Krishna or Buddha, for example, are all after religious experiences with their deities. The 4 meditations I teach in this course are not for this purpose. Many people follow yoga for hedonistic purposes. They are after achieving states of bliss or ecstasy or some such. The 4 meditations I teach are also not for this purpose. Finally, many people meditate and practice yoga in order to achieve samadhi. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, for example, teach the student to attain samadhi through the use of the Om mantra. Samadhi is said to be a profound inner state wherein it is possible to achieve the goal of yoga, or to get nearer to that goal. But the Om mantra is a mantra of the Vedic influences, and so it is really a type of disguised deity practice. The 4 meditations I teach are not for this purpose. Those are the main reasons why a lot of people today meditate and follow yoga. And if those are your motivations for yoga, then this yoga is not for you. So what is the purpose of meditation in this yoga that I am teaching, Yoga for the Aquarian Age? Firstly, it is to increase your level of mindfulness so that you are able to maintain a peaceful and calm state of mind. You do not want a mind that is constantly swayed here and there and forever in motion, like the mind of a dog, constantly straining on the leash and darting after this or that. That is not a mind that is going to be able to make steady progress in yoga, which requires a calm and focused mind and all distractions minimized. So by meditating, you're aiming to keep the background of your mind calm so that you can focus it on yoga and sustain that focus throughout life. In this way, you become more centered in the authentic self. The second purpose of the meditation that I'm teaching, is to pacify any difficult minds that may arise, such as minds of anger, hate, jealousy, addictions, sexual desires, and so on. These will always arise, and they can be very strong, and at these times one meditates expressly with the purpose of channeling an energy that will pacify these states of mind and bring the mind back to a state of calm. This is not always possible, however, and in these cases you meditate simply to maintain awareness of what is happening, so that your consciousness is not overwhelmed or drowned. If that happens, then you experience a downfall, and a state of consciousness that you have attained, or a siddhi, may be lost. So this is important. This is not the same as a mindfulness meditation, which is focused on minimizing day-to-day distractions and strengthening the energies of the authentic self, and not in dealing with a specific state of mind that has arisen and that directly threatens your consciousness and level of attainment in yoga. The third purpose of the meditation that I teach is to enter into a state of contemplation upon some topic, such as the nature of reality, after having read some teachings. This is a critical component of yoga, and especially of the attainment of direct seeing. So those are the 3 main purposes of meditation. But there are several more that are perhaps more advanced and not so obvious. So I shall mention these briefly. The 4th purpose of meditation is to purify the subtle body of energies and their potentials that can ripen and cause problems in the future. The 5th is that a strong meditation can be used as a form of psychic self-defense when one is under a psychic attack. The 6th is that the purpose of meditation is to enter into a more receptive state, so that you are more apt to perceive the deeper happenings of your own mind and of the unseen, such as an imminent psychic attack, the thoughts or feelings of another person, a deeper complex within your own mind that you have not been aware of, the psychic grapevine, and so on. The seventh is to channel an energy directly into a room or space for a specific reason, such as to protect it from negative energy, or to make it more calm and contemplative. And the last is that the purpose of meditation is to develop attainments, the attainments of the higher consciousness, governed primarily by the transits of the sun, and the attainments of the subtle body, governed primarily by the transits of the moon. These are the main reasons why meditation is so important in the development of your yoga, and why it requires a constant daily practice. If, for example, you do not meditate daily, then you are likely to lose your motivation for practicing yoga and fall into a lower state of consciousness. This is the default position, and because the rest of society is in this condition, there will be a constant pressure on you that acts to bring you back into this state of ignorance. You are trying to raise yourself above the level of the rest of humanity, and that is not too dissimilar to a spaceship trying to escape the gravitation of the Earth. Just as the Earth's gravity will always act to pull the spaceship back to the Earth, so too will the lower consciousness of the rest of humanity always act to bring you back into a state of ignorance. For this reason, daily meditation is fundamental to protecting your yogic consciousness and maintaining your path of conscious development of your higher self. If you lived on a planet in which the consciousness of the rest of society was higher than your own, then you would have no such difficulties, as the natural tendency would be for your consciousness to be drawn to a higher state. Sadly, that is not the case, and instead you are going to have to battle the default consciousness of the Earth in order to develop yourself. And in doing so, you will also be helping the overall consciousness of the Earth to reach a higher state, the consciousness of the Aquarian age. So a daily practice of meditation is essential. That means around 1 to 2 hours of formal meditation a day, and a continual informal practice throughout the day. At present, my formal practice consists of 3 30-minute meditations, one in the morning, one in the late afternoon, and one at night before I go to bed. Prior to that, my practice was to do one meditation session of 1.5 to 2 hours in the morning or the afternoon. These formal sessions of meditation are my daily discipline and what I must do to protect and maintain my yoga. On top of that, I tend to do a lot more. So your daily meditation is where you'll need to provide discipline to protect and maintain. If you cannot develop the determination to do that, then you are not going to make progress in this higher yoga. As far as the informal practice of meditation goes, this means continuing to practice meditation and mindfulness throughout the day to whatever extent you are able. You may be sitting down typing, but at the same time you may also maintain a background focus on your breathing and posture or on the subtle body. You may be sat on the beach listening to music through headphones, and you may perform a continual but intermittent visual meditation focused on the sea from time to time. Or you may be sat on the bus, and you may meditate during the journey. These are not formal cross-legged sessions, but are informal sessions, but you will find that these become very important as your yoga develops. Both are essential, the informal and the formal practice, but you must always remember to maintain the formal sessions, as these are what will protect your yoga and are the mainstay of what will develop your yogic attainment. So the formal meditation sessions are where your discipline and willpower must be channeled to protect and maintain. If you cannot do that, you will not progress in this yoga. So let me now proceed to discuss the 4 types of meditations. The first is the mindfulness meditation. This is the most basic meditation and requires you simply to be aware of your breathing. By doing this, you allow the mind to relax and for all distracting thoughts and feelings to drain away. It's a bit like pulling the plug out in a sink. Every time you focus on your breathing, the mind is emptied temporarily, and the space is created for a more calm and peaceful state of mind to arise. If your mind is crowded with thoughts, it can be difficult to stop them, as they have a certain compulsion to them. So providing the mind with another focus, such as that of the breath, and by utilizing your own discipline and willpower to divert attention onto this focus, you have an easier means of quieting and calming the mind than trying to battle the thoughts and energies directly by quelling them. The latter method is a bit like the fairground game where heads pop up and you have to hit them with a mallet so that they go back into their holes. This type of approach to quieting the mind will never really end, for as soon as you have dealt with one train of thought, new ones will always pop up. It's a lot more effort, whereas focusing on the breath provides the mind with an immediate, neutral focus. In addition, the breath comes from a deeper part of the mind, and so one is immediately shifting into a deeper part of your own being, away from all those surface distractions. The mindfulness meditation is a simple meditation and should provide the foundation for a continual informal practice throughout the day. Despite being simple, it is not easy and may be experienced as profoundly frustrating. Every time you focus on your breathing, the deeper energies of the thoughts themselves may create a sensation that makes it hard to continue. That sensation may be frustration, or the sense of boredom, or of what's the point of this, and so on. These are the obstacles to your yoga, so this is where your warrior determination needs to be applied. The second meditation is the body meditation. This is a much more advanced meditation because it can take you very deep, as deep in fact as it is possible to go. The ego always has its experience structured by the archetypes. That is what an archetype is. No one can go beyond this level of the mind, as this includes meditative states such as samadhi. So a body meditation can take you as deep as you need to go, right to the archetypal level of your being. And by focusing on the energies of the body as a meditation, you can come into contact with some of the deepest archetypal energies. In this state, which is perhaps the correct definition of samadhi, one can enter into union directly with, for example, the Kundalini Shakti, one of the most profound archetypal influences of the subtle body. It is these that the yogi seeks to come into a closer and closer union with. With these archetypes, it is possible to go beyond the conceptions and experiences of the current life, and also to develop a subtle body that can survive the death of the physical body and support a conscious agent into new rebirths with full remembrance of its past lives. Just as the archetypes of the physical body construct that body from nothing, so too can these archetypes construct a much longer-lived subtle body with clairvoyant powers of perception and capable of conscious rebirths on other worlds. With the highest attainments of the yoga of the Kundalini Shakti and the Adiyogi, you are capable of being birthed again and again with full memories of past lives and able to continue the work of previous lives. That is the main goal of this yoga. So how do you perform a body meditation? The starting point is really very simple and involves experiencing the body as pure energy. This is done by focusing on any element of the body and experiencing it as a sensation. For example, focusing on the sensation of the floor or seat that you are sitting on. This is a sensation of the body, and you may be able to explore it and absorb yourself in it, so that you can eventually experience more and more of the body as pure sensation. You can do this with your eyes open or closed, but it is better to start with your eyes closed. Eventually, as you develop, you will be able to experience your entire body as pure sensational energy all of the time, no matter what you are doing, and you will be able to experience changes in the energies of the body caused by the environment, other people, unseen entities, and so on. When you have reached this stage, then you are living permanently in your subtle body, and you have transcended the physical body. though the physical body is still alive. So this meditation, when practiced over years, can lead to very profound changes to your conscious experience. Emotions and thoughts are energies that we radiate, and which have an influence not only on the environment around us, which absorbs them and can re-radiate them, but also on other people and animals. The stronger the intensity, then the more powerful these energies are. Most people are totally unaware of the degree to which their mind, thoughts, feelings and inclinations are determined or at least very heavily influenced by these unseen influences. It is through the continued use of a body meditation that you can become very conscious of the play of these subtle energies that often try to enter your body and effect changes upon you without your conscious permission. This, in fact, happens all the time. The main source, but not the exclusive source of these energies, are threefold. First are the people around you, and especially the people who you know, whether you know them well or otherwise, and also the wider population and the energies generated by them. This also includes the media, adverts, cinemas, TV, billboards, and so on, as well as cars, phones, laptops, and other types of artificial machines. These can all generate very powerful psychic energies, and as you develop, you will need to learn to perceive their influence and block them out to render your energy body as impervious as possible. A second source is the multitude of beings and influences that our physical biology does not enable us to perceive. People think, for example, that the land is a scenic place to enjoy for leisure. They have no idea that some places are extremely dangerous, not because of any wild animals, which may have been hunted to extinction, but due to powerful malevolent spirits that inhabit these places. Indigenous and land-based peoples know that the land is not just a pretty landscape to explore at your leisure, that there are some places you do not go, or if you do, you make the necessary preparations. But it is not just the remoter places. Such spirits and influences can be on your own doorstep and even in your own home without you knowing. Traditional folklore around the world carries the collective human experience of these many beings down through the ages, and are an important source of information and wisdom, but can also, of course, be a source of delusion and obfuscation. These unseen entities and influences can lodge themselves in our energy body and exercise a considerable harmful influence over us and our lives. The third source of unseen influences is our own energy body, which can accumulate toxic or benefic astral energy due to our spiritually ignorant actions and behaviors. During the appropriate astrological transit, these energies that have built up in our sphere of influence unknowingly to consciousness, these energies can enter the subtle body through one or more of our chakras and effect profound changes. The most famous example is, of course, the Kundalini Shakti itself, with yoga being a method whereby the astral, mental and Buddhic energies of the Kundalini Shakti are accumulated to the point where this profound transformation can occur. However, for most people, the main way these energies are accumulated is the food we eat, such as sugar, alcohol, fast food, animal products, non-organic foods, and so on, and the places and people we frequent. In our ignorance, we think the people we associate with, the places we frequent, and the food we eat makes little difference to us, when in fact this is profoundly mistaken, as the astral energies that foods and places harbour and that people radiate can have the most profound effect upon us. This is in fact the main process whereby the actions that people take, what we eat, where we go, who we associate with, determines their future evolution. The world is not as it seems, and by practicing this yoga, one not only learns about the true nature of the world, something modern science is completely ignorant of, but can also come to perceive it directly. The same is true for the places we visit and the people we associate with. People may associate with bad people and visit bad places, thinking that they will not be affected, but this is just ignorance, for they are unaware of the dynamics taking place behind their conscious awareness. So a body meditation can be very profound, for it can lead to increased bodily sensitivity, and without developing bodily sensitivity, we are completely ignorant of this wider world of invisible influences that can have the most profound effects upon us. Ensuring that your practice of body meditations actually produces the right result depends almost totally on cultivating the right Shaktis, which is a topic for a future lesson. If you do not cultivate the right Shaktis, then you are not likely to develop the appropriate siddhis using such a meditation. Yoga is a holistic discipline. It cannot be compartmentalized. To make real progress in yoga requires wholesale changes to the way that you live, think and act, in order that you can cultivate the right kinds of Shakti, those that will deliver the attainments and siddhis of yoga. You cannot carry on living a modern life and do a 30-minute session of meditation once a day and expect anything profound to happen. If you are not prepared to make radical, wholesale changes to your life, nor to undergo the sacrifices that requires, then the progress you are going to be able to make in your yoga will be limited. This is a difficult yoga. It is a yoga for the Aquarian age, and it requires a warrior mindset, a mindset that is prepared to make the necessary sacrifices and endure the necessary deprivations for a higher cause greater than themselves, that of protecting life on earth. Without that higher determination as an intention, as a foundational intention, this yoga will not be anything like as effective. The third meditation is the complete breath meditation. This is a meditation that combines a breathing practice, the only breathing practice that I recommend. This breathing practice is called the complete breath or the yogic breath, because it involves expanding the diaphragm and rib cage to their maximum extent in order to inhale as much breath as possible, and then to exhale it. It is basically breathing, but breathing that involves taking in as much air as the body is capable of. It can be very strenuous, so it is not really a type of meditation that allows for full relaxation. Instead, it will require some effort to maintain, but it is an essential meditation to master. I say master, but the fact is you do not have to do it well for it to make a difference. You can just take deep breaths. If you can do it well, then you will generate a lot of power. But even if you do it badly, you will still generate significant power, and it will still generate a lot of energy for the subtle body. So that is really what this meditation does. It generates energy for the subtle body. This has the effect of not only shielding the subtle body from external influences, such as those I mentioned previously, but also of helping them to maintain the well-being of the subtle body and the vitality of the personality, of raising the vibration, to use a common phrase, and thus to help maintain happiness regardless of circumstances. It has a purifying effect on the subtle body, as well as a protective effect. A bit like the energy shields of sci-fi movies that you see spaceships use when they're under attack from lasers. So how do you perform the complete breath? The technique is very simple and goes as follows. Sitting in your meditative posture, inhale slowly through the nostrils, first filling the lower part of the lungs by extending the diaphragm downwards so that the belly protrudes outwards. Then fill the middle part of the lungs, pushing out the lower ribs, breastbone and chest. And lastly, the most difficult bit, fill the higher portion of the lungs, thus lifting the upper chest and ribs. And if you can't do that last bit, don't worry. Hold the breath briefly and then breathe out through the mouth and repeat. You want to aim to do this in one smooth movement, rather than 3 separate jerky movements. And for this you will need to practice. It will probably help to go online and look up some short videos showing the complete breath being performed and explained. So perhaps that is some homework for you to do. In a short space of time, with daily practice, the complete breath will become second nature and should be utilized every day, whether in meditation or just during the course of the day. One of the ways to utilize the complete breath is to combine it with a body meditation. Because the complete breath can really energize the subtle body, by performing just a few rounds of the complete breath, you can really feel the subtle body come alive, and can then easily use this sensation to go straight into a body meditation. If you are struggling to get beyond the physical body and to feel the energy of your subtle body during a body meditation, then this can potentially help a great deal. If, when you do the complete breath, you can't feel anything, then that is because your sensitivity has not developed enough, and or your subtle body has not developed enough. Perhaps you need to change your dietary habits in order to cultivate the right Shakti, or let go of an addiction, or focus on the teachings of the path of direct seeing. As I said, yoga is a holistic discipline and requires commitment maintained over many years. It is only when you can feel the energy of the subtle body rise as you do the complete breath that you will really come to value this powerful yet simple meditation. Until then, you will be relying on the hearsay of others, such as myself. You only really develop in yoga by experiencing these things directly, as that is the point of yoga, to learn through direct experience by developing your sensitivity and higher consciousness. And in the absence of that, you will just be going through the motions day after day and not developing. Yoga is not a faith. It is a science based on direct, subjective experience. The last meditation is the visual meditation, where you focus on an external object. If I were a Hindu, I would probably call this a Brahman meditation, for what you are ultimately aiming to do is to connect with the Brahman level of reality. I use the word in the sense of the Chandogya Upanishad, or the teachings of Vedanta, to mean the fundamental substrate of reality. Fundamental, however, is in my view too strong a word, as it implies that there is a deepest level of reality, and I'm not aware that there is. And I'm pretty sure that if there is, it is not possible for the human ego to experience it. However, make no mistake, this type of meditation brings you into direct connection with something very profound, very meaningful, and spiritually enlightening. I do not know what that is, and would be glad to call it Brahman, except for the fact that the word has been abused and misapplied for centuries, and I do not wish to associate my own yoga with corrupted notions. I do this type of meditation for two reasons: to bring myself into communion with an environment or object, or to channel an energy into an environment or object. I live by the sea and often meditate by the sea, and in these situations I often do a visual meditation by allowing my eyes to rest on the sea. Usually I start by doing a quick body meditation so that I am fully immersed in my subtle body, and then simply let my gaze rest on the sea. Most of the time, I don't gaze at a fixed point, but allow my eyes to wander as they please, taking it all in. You'll find that if you gaze at one fixed point, then you are likely to quickly enter into a trance state. Okay, if that is what you want, then go for it. Sometimes I like to do this, but mostly I don't want this, and instead I allow my eyes to wander, to stop myself entering into a trance state. And instead I take in the sea and the play of light, which is really very magical. If you have gained attainments in your higher consciousness, which is the path of the sun, the path of direct seeing, then this type of meditation is really quite something and very hard to explain. Wherever you do it, you are entering into communion with something that is a deep mystery. In the example of the sea, if you are doing a visual meditation on the sea, then what you are entering into communion with is the sea, but it's a living thing, and you can relate to it directly as one living thing to another, and exchange subtle energy, and in that way commune. It is not about words or having a conversation. It is an exchange of energy, and you simply experience it. I swim in the sea all through the year. It is one of my greatest allies in the fight to protect my yogic consciousness and to continue to develop. But I cannot say I know what it is. I know that it is many things, and not just one thing, because large bodies of water transmit many influences. And I know that the lunar and Neptunian influences are particularly powerfully channeled by large bodies of water. And that if there are transits to other planets, as there usually are, then a greater variety of influences can be transmitted. Water is a powerful transmitter of psychic influences. But over and above this, there is also something more. The sea is something very complex, like the sky or a forest. Another place where I do visual meditations is in buildings or vehicles, such as buses. I do this either to commune with the space and the influences within it, and or to clear the space energetically and to channel my own benefic influences into it. It is not easy to explain how to do this, as I generally have to look around to find the right place to look. It's not that you can just look anywhere. You have to find the right spot where the energy can be felt, where the contact can be made. Then, when the right spot has been found, you either sit and meditate or you stand and stare. In these cases, I'm generally entering into a trance state, and so, although I do keep my focus on one area, rather than staring at a particular spot, I am rather taking in the whole field of view. So I am staring at a particular spot, but I'm not concentrating my gaze there. I'm taking in the whole field of view. So this is something that I do all the time, wherever I go. It means that the places that I frequent regularly are protected, not only for myself, but also for others. Of course, in a bus or train station, it is not possible to protect everyone there, and the energy you channel will not last that long anyway, as there will be too many people, each radiating their own influences. However, in a waiting room, where people are generally quiet, it is possible to generate a lasting influence. Every time I leave my home, I do this type of meditation in every room before I leave, just for 30 seconds or so at a time. This is to clear the energy in my flat and to protect it. And it really works, quite powerfully so. If I am in someone else's home, then I will do it there also. No matter what mood I am in, or what energy I have picked up when out and about in a busy city, when I enter my flat, my mind is immediately pacified and becomes calm and peaceful, because of these meditations and the energies that I create there. I am a solitary person and generally do not have visitors, but one time I allowed a film student to stay in my flat for a few months as an act of kindness, as she needed somewhere to stay for free in order that she could do a course that she really wanted to do. She drove and was often stressed out as a result, and I remember one time in particular, after having driven home and got caught in rush hour traffic for some time, she arrived in the hallway very stressed, but breathed a sigh of relief and exclaimed, "God, it's so peaceful in here," as the stress she carried was instantly pacified by the energies within my flat. People in the West refer to Mars as an influence that carries bloodlust, war and aggression, but that is simply the West and its karma. In yoga, Mars, among other things, carries powerful energies of peace and tranquility. These types of meditation are very powerful, but it does, I think, depend greatly on your level of attainment and also requires some skill. Nonetheless, they are very important meditations to master. So those are the 4 meditations that are the foundation of the yoga that I teach. and which are all that are required to develop in your yoga to achieve the final goal. Of course, I have been a little bit simplistic in my explanations, as in fact these meditations have layers of subtlety and development layered within them, and each one could in fact be broken up into lots of different meditations, representing the various stages of development and advancement. I spoke, for example, of the visual meditation, which I use either for trance or for communing. So really, these are two quite different meditations, and within each of those are further layers that require differentiating depending on one's level of attainment. And even with a basic breath meditation, where you focus on your breathing, there is also greater levels of differentiation that you can bring to bear to separate out a wider class of meditations. I have also not considered the types of phenomena that can arise during meditations. This is an introduction to the 4 different meditations that are the basis of the yoga that I teach, and so my aim was to keep it simple. Nonetheless, it is important to know that in fact this is not a simple topic at all, and that I have simplified it for convenience, so that you can begin the practices. Many phenomena can arise during meditation, especially as your siddhis or clairvoyant abilities develop, and many of them can be deceptive or obstructive or illuminating or frightening and so on. Some of the most terrifying experience I have had have occurred during meditation, when I have come face to face with terrible beings wielding horrific energies. On the other hand, when meditating in nature, I have also come face to face with nature spirits wielding deceptive trickster-style energies, taking liberties with my person and consciousness for their amusement or for their gain. The experiences you can have during meditation are many and varied, and often are not welcome, but they arise anyway. I hope as this course progresses that I can cover some of these types of experiences. But in general, yoga requires the student to read widely and from many different sources in order to comprehend and understand as well as possible what you are experiencing and dealing with. Ultimately, that is a journey for the student themselves. The nature of reality is complex and a large part of it inexplicable. And that is why yoga requires a strong level of devotion to the truth, to study, and to contemplation of your experience. So I have come to the end of the first lesson. I hope you have found it informative and illuminating, and that you are still motivated to pursue this yoga and to manifest the higher consciousness of yoga.